Okay, so our render is finished. I loaded them in here. So we have two layers. The first pass of the ocean background and the water pass. So now this is pretty much the first time we're seeing it. So we're gonna see obviously things that are not working, and then we'll need to address those, and then hopefully it will end up becoming a better template for the rest of the sequence. So having said that, let's watch. So this is our background, which is kind of working. I think there's a little bit of a pop in one frame, or was it? No, it was fine. And we could probably play with the settings more, but generally speaking, we're in a bad place. The main layer, this is caching now, just let it cache. Main layer has a couple frames broken, and I'm seeing some sparkly bits, and I think we know what's happening. But the one thing that we need to figure out is what's happening at the edge, because it looks like we have more displacement than our background layer, because if I put them A over B, there's going to be some color change, and there's a couple things we need to probably address before moving forward. Okay, so had a look at those in advance, and I'm going to walk you guys through. So the first thing I did realize was inside my measure, my spec mult values were going more than one. Okay, and it's because we were ramping this up, and then we were adding it on top. Okay, so once we add the fit speed, so that if I do that, actually you can see that if I go here, scene view, let this cook. Okay, so these values here were becoming almost two because we were adding two layers on top of each other. Okay, so we could do max, and that would probably sort that out as well. But we were adding it on top, and then because we're adding on top, then I'm clamping it to one. Okay. When I clamp it to one, the displacement, and because we use that attribute as a displacement multiplier, so now because one, it's going to be exactly the same as if I go here. Oh, let's not export the color. Okay. And if I now look here, select this guy. Now the edges are pretty reasonable. Now the other thing I did was the edge itself was getting brighter, right? So here's a little bit of a modified version of this to double check everything is working. So we have our Ocean UV project, the full thing, and which is our boat is here, the ship, and this is our simulation area. Now, if you look from top-down view, top-down, and if you look at just the, I'm going to disable this. I'm going to do a little Boolean, and I'll end up with a little gap here. Okay, in order to align this perfectly, we need to kind of do actually two things. I did only one here, but before I cache it again, I'm going to probably do the same thing again. So I have a bounce here, right? And basically I'm taking the bounds of my simulation because in some places, the geometry is going forward, backward. So I'm saying create a bound, but then do a little reduction. So basically the white area, it's going inside almost the simulation, right? It's shrinking itself. And then I'm saying to a Boolean. Now actually I can take this guy and go into my simulation. Where is it? Where is it? Water sim. And just before I export, if I actually do here a bounce and maybe do a Boolean intersection. Okay, so if I do an intersection and now the left side is an open geo, right side is not. So something like this. Just give it a second. It's a little bit of a heavy operation. Let's let it get solved. Okay, now it's done. And if I do this, oh, come on, visualize. Okay. And if I look now, top top-down view of this, and we'll end up with a, so if I go here, maybe if I do this, not this one, sorry. Now, our basically we just chopped out the excessive amount and plugged back in the boolean, so we kind of have a really good matching edge now. Now I can render this as a blocker to get really nice connecting edges. So if I kind of use this as a blocker now, and that's getting the same shader for displacement of the environment, so we should get a really nice edge compensation. So let's have a look at how this might look. Um, let's see, um, maybe I can render them both if I just copy paste this guy here and then say, well, I mean, the edge is dark, but let's see how that works. So I'm going to render the blocker as an visible object. Let's save, blocker, redshift. This was matte enabled, so I'm going to disable that so it's visible. And which object is this? I'm going to disable the motion blur as well so it doesn't go to the next frame to try to do a boolean. And if we now keep the render, this is FX render 1. Okay, let it cook. Meanwhile, and we'll come back when the render is finished. Okay, so well, this is the result now. So the edges. Let me go back to what it was maybe. So it was we're kind of like this. Now we're kind of like this. So a lot more aligned. The edges makes much sense. And we just had to re-render it basically. And that will be it. Now I'm just gonna for the next episode, I'm just gonna set up the I don't have the other Houdini open. I'm just gonna set up the water flow from the and our enemy ship, and then we're gonna move on to another shot. But basically, this will be the foundation of all of our shots. There's a couple things that we didn't automate. We could, but there's really no need at the moment for that level of automation. One of them is that we could definitely create a smart way for this bounding box, like based on camera maybe, and so on and so forth. Now the other thing we could definitely do is, I guess the one thing that we have to do is the thing that we did manual was chopping off the unneeded whitewater bounce cleanup. So we could also automate this, but since we haven't automated these guys, which means that when we open Houdini, we have to manually adjust those for all the other shots. So in the next shot, we're going to set up the firing scene, and then we'll go through the redshift settings as well, and that will be it. So I'm going to stop the video, and we'll see you in the next one.